On a typically sultry summer morning in 2007, New Orleanians awoke to a surprise right downtown. There, amid the shops and hotels, the restaurants and the casinos, a visitor as unexpected as a space alien appeared. A fully functional flying World War II bomber was sitting just outside the Riverwalk Marketplace on the Canal Street Wharf. Who put it there, and why? What possible connection could there be between New Orleans and a 65-year-old Mitchell B-25 war dog? The answers will very likely surprise you.
Deep river.
What happened in New Orleans is a story that spans nearly a century. It involves the seemingly unlikely convergence of the nation's disabled American veterans, a legendary World War II bomber, and the aftermath of one of the most devastating natural disasters in American history.
You know, the DAV is a National Veterans Service Organization, and we're proud to sponsor the B-25 bombers to air shows across this country. These B-25 bombers, who served under the Doolittle Raiders right after the beginning of World War II, know the sacrifice and what it is to deal with adversity. And disabled veterans of this country understand those terms as well. Their lives begin all over again when they are disabled in defense of our freedom, and we'd like to bring attention to those sacrifices as well as to the sacrifices of those who participated in the B-25, the Doolittle raids, and it's our pleasure to support the air shows and to bring in the B-25 bomber.
Among the ways the DAV connects with veterans in need is through its air show outreach program. The organization participates in more than 20 of the largest air shows in the country every year, and it does not show up empty-handed. The DAV provides two beautifully restored B-25 Mitchell bombers that form the centerpiece of its display. These historic warbirds attract huge crowds of curious spectators at every show. More than 60 years after the end of World War II, these aircraft are still revered, largely for the role they played in one of the most gallant operations in military history, the immortal Doolittle Raid. "80 men took part in the Doolittle Raid on Japan, which was memorialized in the book and movie 30 Seconds Over Tokyo. The plan was to take the bombers within 450 miles of Japan, have them arrive over Tokyo and other cities under cover of darkness. But the American naval fleet was spotted 650 miles out by Japanese picket boats. The original plan, to have the bombers hit their targets, then divert to China to land, pushed the fuel envelope to the limit. Having to fly an additional 250 miles made the already long odds nearly impossible ones. The 16 B-25s of the Doolittle Raid left Japanese airspace virtually unimpeded by either Japanese aircraft or ground fire. One airplane had excessive fuel consumption and diverted to the Soviet maritime region. Its 5 crew members were interned by the then neutral Soviets. 4 airplanes crash-landed or ditched offshore. The 11 remaining crews took to their parachutes. 3 men were killed that day. The Japanese captured 8 crewmen. 3 were executed in October of 1942. Another died in prison a year later. The remaining Doolittle Raiders returned to duty with the Army forces. 12 of those lost their lives later in the war. 23 of Doolittle's men received the Distinguished Flying Cross. The Raiders have met every year since to commemorate the raid. The DAV had long wanted to bring one of its revered B-25s to a national convention for all its members, but particularly World War II veterans and others who might have difficulty attending an air show to experience firsthand. But how do you deliver a 20,000-pound airplane that stands 16 feet high, is 53 feet long, and spans 67 feet to a downtown hotel convention site? Enter New Orleans. 3 years before Hurricane Katrina delivered her devastating blow to the Big Easy, the disabled American veterans had designated the city as its 2007 convention site. However, no one could have predicted the level of destruction the storm would cause. David Schulingkamp is an Army veteran, a lifelong New Orleans resident and shipping executive who took a personal interest in having the DAV come to New Orleans. He explains the sequence of events that laid waste to the city.
We're looking at Lake Pontchartrain, which is 75 miles east-west, 25 miles north-south. To the east, it leads to the sea. And during Hurricane Katrina, storm surge preceded the storm, that is the rising tide, forced itself into the lake and created a surge of water that inundated the canal, which was supposed to be for drainage of rainwater, and created pressures which burst the levees and created the major floodwaters which hitched the main part of the city. We're looking down the 17th Street Canal to the south. 17th Street Canal, again, is one of the major drainage canals that drains rainwater from the city of New Orleans out. And this area where you see the new concrete is the major breach that caused flooding in the city of New Orleans. And that portion of the levee, of the wall, gave way around 10, 11 o'clock in the morning and caused the seawater, in essence, to enter the city of New Orleans.
Like the Doolittle Raiders of 1942, disabled American veterans have always known what it means to persevere against all odds. They refused to abandon New Orleans, and the people of New Orleans took note. Christian Brown is chairman of the Pro Bono Publico Foundation, one of many groups still trying to help restore the city.
When the disabled American veterans decided to come to New Orleans, it was incredible news. I remember quite clearly that they came out publicly and said they were supporting the city and the rebuilding of the city. And to me, that was just what the doctor ordered. But without organizations like the DAV, I don't think our tourism industry would be where it is today. I really don't.
It just so happened that 2007 was also an anniversary year for the Doolittle Raid. Fortunately, New Orleans is a port city located at the mouth of one of the world's largest rivers. And like the daring Doolittle Raid plan, perhaps the key would be to bring the B-25 as close as possible to its target by water.